what are some of the big trends shaping the data center space today?
Hey, thanks and good afternoon. Some of the trends which are facing the data centers today are primarily, if you look at it, is one is consolidation, which is happening in the data center market. Second, which is happening is more and more data centers are becoming green. The third part, which I see, is cloud computing is coming into place. And the fourth, which is relatively new to the Indian market, but still available globally, is what we call the data center in a box. So some of these data center trends are definitely there. The consolidation is largely happening because the costs of due to economies of scale, it makes far more sense to have a consolidated data center. Some trends and reports have shown that the cost of a per rack per annum is about 3.5 lakhs if you have less than 200 racks. But when you exceed 1,500 racks, then the cost drops to about 2.5 lakhs or 2 lakhs per rack per annum. So consolidation definitely makes far more sense. And at the same time, if you look at it, the challenges which consolidation brings in is in terms of increased costs of power and cooling. So data centers are becoming, therefore, or trying to become highly efficient in that sense. And from the traditional centralized data centers are now becoming more and more service-oriented and highly efficient. So that's the migration which is happening.
How has been the adoption of data centers in India, and which segments have contributed to the growth of the India data center industry?
In the past few years, surprisingly, and I'm pleased to say this, that it's the government and the public sector which have actually taken off. With the state data centers coming up, with the UID project in place, there's a lot of public sector organizations which are expanding or rebuilding their data centers. So that's one space which has really taken off. The third-party data centers, colo services, have also grown phenomenally in the past 3 to 4 years. So that's one area which is growing. Traditionally, telcos, which occupy, I think, 50 to 55% of the market share in data centers, are the largest owners of the data centers. 15% is done by BFSI, and the rest is done by the private organizations thereafter. But the growth is predominantly coming in from the government sector and the third-party colos, which are coming into play. So these are the guys who are actually building it up and taking it forward.
What are your views on the role of cloud-based services in the adoption of data centers? And how has this particular trend made a difference to data center architectures or configurations in any manner?
It's a tough question because cloud services are still pretty nascent. As a technology, it has yet to be adopted. There are a lot of issues and challenges which are associated at this stage or with cloud computing, and that is true for any new technology which comes into place, for that matter. If I were to look at it from a CIO's perspective, the challenge largely becomes for me what to put on cloud and what not to put on cloud. That's point one. Reality also is that the cloud services are offering far more value for money than if I have to do it from a CIO's perspective on my own. So as a long-term strategy, I do not know how to balance and arrive at the right mix of the local in-house IT services versus cloud IT services. That's challenge number one. Challenge number two is because of the business demands and business needs, what's happening is my computing needs are spread across in-house IT infrastructure, private cloud, and you're looking at public clouds, which means the concept of hybrid cloud comes into play. When you're talking about hybrid cloud, then the organization's IT resources are more like a spider which is spanned across multiple clouds. Managing resources across these multiple clouds, monitoring as to what's happening across these clouds, and deploying the right skills for each cloud is a huge issue and a challenge. So, which is what the IT industry is still trying to grapple with. Given the need, what's happening in terms of the big growth in the data, which is exploding, we're talking about 30 to 50% year-on-year growth on the data, what we call big data today. Managing of that data across multiple clouds becomes an issue. So somewhere what I see is that maybe big data as a service or big data management as a service from the service providers to the industry could be the way forward. But still, it's too early and too new for us to be able to take a conclusive call as to what's happening with it. Everybody's experimenting with it at this stage. As I said, the cloud computing is very nascent. And with every technology, nobody knows how it's going to evolve. So people are experimenting. So there are some people, as you call the early adapters or adopters for the technology. People watch and learn as to how they're adopting. And it's not only the people who are adopting, it's the people who are providing the service also. Even they need to fine-tune their services over a period of time. So it's kind of a learning curve which both the offerer and the offer user uses. Okay, so it's a learning curve. But specifically, when you ask, what are the challenges faced, we would slightly differently. The way I would view it is that I have a data center or I'm using services of a data center. How do I optimize my resources in a data center today? I think that is a larger question which we need to look at and focus, because with the consolidation of data centers which is coming into play, IT budgets are always either there's the same or there's a marginal improvement in the growth in the IT budgets. So how do you optimize your existing infrastructure? How do you optimize your existing resources to be sure that you can, deliver what the business demands are in terms of optimizing your power consumption, in terms of your cooling, in terms of your infrastructure management, which is happening in the data center? I think those are the larger challenges which exist within the data center today. Okay, and power costs are increasing. Okay, look at it globally. It's not an easy thing. So, from the IT manager's perspective or the CIO's perspective, I would rather address these issues simultaneously while learning from what's happening on the technology front parallelly.
While you're catering to the bigger players in terms of the government or BFSI or telcos, do you feel there are these other green shoots which are emerging also, which Raritan has plans to cater to?
Sure. You rightly said that the media is playing a big role in this, and with the great use of videos, etc., and gaming which is coming into play, you need huge amounts of bandwidth, which means at the back end you need infrastructure to support that bandwidth and the data which is flowing. So media is a big sector which we look at and we are trying to address parallelly at the same time. Government sure is one area which we're trying to work with. Specifically from Raritan's perspective, while these are verticals which are coming up, which are using data centers or building data centers on their own, the plan for Raritan is largely in terms of educating the market. Okay. Very interesting thing about us Indians is that we are very bright and very sharp in understanding and wanting to learn technology. But the flip side is we do not spend as fast to deploy the technology. Okay. There's typically a lag of about 3 years. We talked about virtualization 5-6 years ago. Okay, virtualization has peaked off about a year and a half ago, and still people are virtualizing today. We started talking about green data centers 3.5 years ago, and the green data center is now picking up. We're talking about cloud computing today, and cloud computing in its deployment will pick up about 2 to 2.5 years from now. The reality is, customers are aware of their problems. Reality is that customers are broad-basedly aware of the solutions which are available in the market. Reality also is that because they are reading and trying to understand technology too fast, they're not deep diving into each technology. Okay. So from a Raritan's perspective, the way I see it is we would like to educate the market at each technology level, make them understand as to how to deploy technology to its fullest extent. Once you do that, you're able to therefore then optimize your resources which are available to you. Okay. So that's going to be largely the focus for Raritan in both educating the market. And when I say market, I mean the end customers as well as the channel community which we work with.